I was going to be doing a lecture about an online workshop about therapeutic fibbing. And so I sent a question out in an email to a large group of people. And I led with a question: when is it okay to not tell the truth to a person who's living with dementia? And I got an email back from somebody who has dementia, who was absolutely livid. She said, "I can't believe that you would ever suggest that it's okay to tell anything but the truth to a person who's living with dementia." And I said, "You know what? I think I need to hear your story." So she and I did a call together and we talked about it. And it turns out that we really were on the same page. But a lot of it has to do with language. So a lot of people find even the phrase, I'm calling it therapeutic fibbing, but a lot of people find that phrase ugly. People don't like it because people don't like the idea of ever lying. Why would you ever lie to somebody who you love and you care about? Or if it's in a long-term care setting, to a resident who trusts you, why would you ever lie to them? It just seems dishonest and cruel. So I don't advocate lying. I advocate staying in the reality of the person who you support, which sometimes might mean that in supporting their reality, which is not really connected to the truth, you're joining them in this place of untruth. So some people really have an issue with not telling the truth to a person who's living with dementia. And I'm right there with you. We should tell the truth as much as possible. However, sometimes I think that what we need to be more focused on is kindness and compassion. So for instance, my husband was living in long-term care, and there was a woman who just about every night, I was often there at dinner time, and just about every night, just as she was about to take a bite of her meal, she would say, "Oh, I forgot to ask my mother if it's okay for me to stay and have dinner with you." Now, this woman was well into her 80s, right? So it's not really a question of whether or not her mom was going to give her permission, but her reality was that her mom was alive and well, and that she was at a friend's house for dinner, and she needed her mom's permission. And so the staff, whenever they heard her say that, they would come in and they would say, "Oh, Donna, by the way, your mom just called. She said you can stay for dinner." And Donna would say, Oh, okay. And then the staff would say, "Oh, and by the way, she said you can even have a sleepover." And she would say, like, hot diggity. She was so excited that she got to have dinner and a sleepover. And I remember looking at that as a visiting family member and thinking, well, that was skillfully done because they stayed within her reality. Her mom is alive and well, and she needs her mom's permission. And they brought her joy. Now, they could have said, Donna, you're a grown woman. Your mother has been dead for 32 years, and you don't need her permission to stay for dinner. But what benefit would that have produced at all? It would only serve to upset her. And so in a case like that, I do think that just staying in the person's reality and playing along with their story, with their reality, is the thing that is the most kind and compassionate in support of that person. If a caregiver is going to bend the truth or tell a little white lie, is what people sometimes call them, I think it's really important to make sure that that is not going to cause the person confusion and consternation. So, for instance, I have seen the case where a person in a long-term care setting might ask that question about, when is my daughter coming to visit, for instance, and the daughter isn't going to be coming to visit today because the daughter lives several states away, for instance. And the staff will say, "Oh, she's not going to come until 3." And their hope is that the person is going to forget that they asked, and that 3:00 will roll around and they won't think about it. But the thing is that they might, like 3:00 might roll around and they might think, now where's my daughter? Because you said she was coming at 3. So we can't create a lie that might wind up getting us caught or get us, have the caregiver be perceived as a person who can't be trusted. So therefore, so in that case, right, staying within the person's reality, if they say that their daughter is supposed to be coming at 3, can you check and make sure she's coming at 3? What I could do is I could say, I'll see what I can find out. And, but in the meanwhile, how about if we go do whatever this other thing is? But I also, again, I might want to just stop and say, tell me more about what is it that you're hoping to do with your daughter today when your daughter arrives, so that we, again, stay within her reality rather than me just trying to skip the subject, right? Or avoid the subject altogether. Another thing that's really hard is, for instance, a person who, I've had this circumstance where I've been in a long-term care community and typically a gentleman, will get extremely upset and say that he's got a meeting he needs to get to, because his belief system is that he's still a high-powered executive and that the meeting can't start without him. And here we are, we've got him locked in this place. He can't get out. How is he supposed to get to the meeting? And he's absolutely irate that he can't get to the meeting. So what do you tell a person like that, right? Again, you can't say, oh, you could say, you don't work any longer, you're retired. But his reality is that he does work and that he's not retired. And so then I am now in the position of seeming like a liar from his perspective, because what am I trying to pull here? Of course he still works. When people talk about therapeutic fibbing, what they usually mean is telling a tiny little fib, telling a little lie in the interest of helping the person with dementia feel better. For instance, when is my husband picking me up? And the little lie, because we know that the husband has passed away and that me telling her that her husband is never picking her up because he's dead, that's not going to go over very well. So the therapeutic fib that people would often think of is something like, oh, your husband is not going to be coming until later this afternoon, or, oh, there's a ton of traffic, might take him a long time to get here. And those are valid. Those are little tiny fibs, and we're doing them in the interest of staying within her reality and helping her feel better. If you are uncomfortable with a little fib like that, which a lot of people are, what I encourage is, rather than fibbing, just try to go more deeply into her reality and kind of stay away from the question. So if the question is, when is my husband going to be picking me up? And I don't want to lie about a time, because no matter what I say, it's going to be an untruth, because her husband is actually never coming. What I might do instead is just stay in her reality and avoid the question of when is her husband coming, by focusing on the things that she loves about her husband. Oh, so your husband is coming to pick you up for lunch today. Wow. Tell me more about your husband. He's the guy in the picture, right? In your room? The wedding picture. That's you, and that's your husband. Tell me your husband's name. What a great name. Oh my gosh. Is that what you call him, or do you usually call him honey or something like that? Right? So I just start having a conversation that just allows her to dwell in this place of love for her husband. And I think that that's one of the best things and kindest things that we can do for a person, is be with them in the places that bring them joy. Our whole lives, we've been lying is a sin, right? We don't lie. Lying is something that we just never do. And I especially see this with couples. I've never lied to my husband in our entire 58 years of marriage. Why would I start lying to him now? I've promised him that I would never, ever be unfaithful, and that I would always tell him the truth about everything. And I cannot lie to him. And that's okay. You don't need to lie. I am fully respectful and buy in to the fact that there are people who simply cannot lie to the person that they're supporting. And that's okay. You don't have to lie. I think that you just need to be skillful about how you handle the reality. So if it's a married couple, they've been married for 47 years and the wife has never lied to her husband, and she's not going to start now. Well, when your husband asks a question like, what time am I going to be getting to my meeting? I need to go to my meeting. My meeting's going to be starting soon. For the wife to be able to, if the wife says, no, you don't go to those meetings anymore. You retired 7 years ago. okay, but then your husband might start getting really angry because he doesn't believe that he retired 7 years ago. And now he thinks you're lying to him. So in your interest of, by not lying, you're causing him to think that you are lying. And so you really need to, it's a fine balance. And so that's where, instead of coming clean with the truth, you don't work anymore. Instead, what I might need to do as that wife who never wanted to lie to her husband is help him stay in his reality by saying, oh, you know what? Jim called and they postponed that meeting until next week. If that causes him to calm down and not feel anxiety, then maybe it was worth it, right? Or to try going more deeply into it. You said you have a meeting at 10. What are you guys going to be talking about today? You know what I thought? Maybe what we could do is we could bake some of those cookies that you like so much to bring to the meeting. And then we shift and we start doing something else that distracts him from the thing. So I think that if you are averse to fibbing to the person that you support, fine. I think that that's, avoid it, avoid lying. But you need to be prepared for the fact that your avoiding lying might be perceived as a lie, which causes the person more anxiety. So it's a balancing act. Do we tell a small little fib in the interest of keeping them happy? Or do we find other ways to go more deeply into their reality and therefore avoid the question altogether?